Good evening, parents. Thank you very much for joining us this evening on the final webinar that we are sharing specifically with regards to our IN department. If you joined us on Tuesday, welcome back. And if this is your first time, again, a very warm welcome to West Island School. This evening, we are having a webinar presented by Miss Maria Woods, who is our Head of Individual Needs. And I would just like everybody to turn their video cameras on just so I could introduce the other members of our panel. Thank you very much. So Miss Woods, I've already introduced, and we are also supported by Miss Neville, who is the second in charge of individual needs, and Miss Woozy, who is going to be your child's head of year. Miss Neville and Miss Woozy are going to sit in the background alongside myself, so that we can just answer any questions that you may have during the course of the evening. However, if I can ask that you wait until the end of the webinar, and then we will invite you to ask any questions that you may have. Thank you very much. If you submitted a question in advance of this evening, Miss Woods has those prepared for a response. I know there were a few general questions about organisation aspects of West Island School, and I will also answer those as well. But thank you very much. And Miss Woods, if you would like to take over proceedings, and Miss Woozy, Miss Neville and I will just sit in the background, and then we'll come in at the end for the Q&A. Thank you very much. I'll give you a minute, Maria, just to get organised. Don't forget you're on mute. We can see your slides really, really well. Just take yourself off mute and I think you're good to go.
Here we go. There we go.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
Hi, welcome to West Island School Individual Needs Department. We are the support department that works alongside students who need that extra little bit of support in order to be successful and to be their very best within West Island School. And I'm just trying to work out how to next set my... Oh, hang on. How do I do my slide?
Hopefully click the right arrow.
I can't see. That's it. Okay.
There you go. Perfect. Well done.
I've got the problem. I've got a little box that says who I am in the middle of my screen. Okay, let me introduce you to our team. We are a team of 5 members of staff, teaching staff, that is. Myself as the head of individual needs, Shelby Neville as my second in department, Corey, Pock and Angel, who make up the rest of the team, together with a team of educational assistants. If your child is part of our individual needs department or comes in for any kind of support, you will get to know these people incredibly well. We spend a lot of time getting to know students and working alongside them on their journey through West Island School. There's many questions and I'm sure your children are very excited, and I'm sure that as parents you have mixed feelings about high school. I suspect you feel that time has marched very quickly and that your little child is suddenly going into the big bad world of high school. And with that comes a whole load of questions and trepidation. What I'd like to reassure you at this point is that usually children survive this really, really well. They transition really, really well, possibly better than some of their parents do. But these will be some of the questions that you have about your child's move into a big school. You know, how will they manage? How will they be organised? How are you going to help them? What is the role of the tutor? Who are the people I'm going to speak to? And you will learn gradually over time that these questions become very apparent. The answers to these become very obvious very quickly. So let me reassure you before we go any further that the majority of the children will transfer into high school really well. Okay? Okay. So these are the things that are different, and they are different compared to the primary school that you've been in. Some of you are coming through ESF primary schools, and so even then it's different. And then some of you are coming from outside of ESF, where the systems, the protocols, the ways of learning, the ways of communication will all be very different. So classes are definitely bigger, both in sort of physical size, the numbers may be larger. It's a bigger school. We have 1,200 students. There's different language used. So you will refer to the tutor, who's the person who takes the register and looks after the pastoral well-being of the children, as a tutor rather than a class teacher. They don't have a personal desk that they sit at every day for every lesson. They use lockers to store their belongings. They move and have different teachers every day and every lesson. So once an hour, they will have a different teacher teaching the different subject, which will be in a different room. Some of the students will begin to be independent travelling to school. Some of you may already have that for your child. For some of you, this will be new. Volume and expectations for homework will increase, but please be assured, not in the short term. We are not going to load your child up with homework in those first weeks, even months, to be honest. We get them settled. We want them into routines. We want them to be happy before we start loading those expectations on. But obviously, as they go up through the school, as they get older, there will be greater volume and expectations around homework. We help with that. The IN department offers a homework club every night, Monday through to Friday, up till 4:30 every day, where there is an EA or a teacher available to help and support your child with their homework, if that is something you think they will need, or in fact, something they choose to do. The one thing that is different is the greater need for their own organisational skills. They have to be organised each day with what the timetable is going to look like, what their equipment will need to be, have they got their PE kit with them, where are they going around school, have they got their writing equipment, because teachers won't have a pot of pens in the middle of the desk for the students to just use theirs. They have to have their own pencil case. That is definitely different. But to be honest, again, most students are okay with this, and they get quite excited about having their own pencils and pens and that kind of thing. The students themselves have worries, and I'm sure they've talked to you about this already. You know, what will happen if I get lost? What will happen if I'm late? They'll all get lost. They always do. Nobody minds. The students in West Island School are incredibly kind, well-meaning. They will support, they'll help them, they'll show them around, they'll have buddies from other year groups that are there to help them. So they're supported at every step of the way as they move through the first weeks at school. And all these are concerns that all students have when they first start a new school. And they will learn very quickly that actually they've got the capacity for this. They're ready. And it's exciting. Timetable is also something that they will learn to sort of navigate, I suppose is the best word for that. We run a 7-day timetable, which can be a little daunting at first. But again, the days that we're up to are well published around school. Students know what day it is, where they're up to, what the timetable will look like. And that is helped in the mornings with their tutors, who for the first weeks will help talk them through what their timetable is going to be. What have they got lesson 1? What have they got lesson 2? Have you got stuff in your bag? What do you think you're going to need? You know, we've been doing this a long time, and we've got pretty good at supporting students. Language can be a thing, though. They will sometimes call things lessons, and we might call things periods. So sometimes the change in language can throw them a little bit. So if they're looking a little bit trepidatious, or they've looked a bit upset or something, just check on the language. Have they understood the language that's being used? And if they're not sure, ask. And if they don't feel they can ask, you email the tutor, and the tutor will help you navigate that. So working independently, coping with more complex activities, less supervision at breaks and lunchtimes. They can hang about wherever they want pretty much in school, and they're going to be coping with new subjects that they haven't been in before. All of these are quite genuine concerns. But again, we twist that. We don't tell them to be worried about these things. We ask them to embrace these things, to be excited about these things. They are ready. We don't start high school until we're ready. And all students settle in, usually within days. Parents don't settle in within days, but students do. So at the school, we are have what we call level of adjustments. This is how we offer our support in school. This is an ESF-wide descriptor for support. So if you've come through the ESF, if you've been to Bradbury or been to Kennedy, you might have heard these phrases before. And some of your children may already be on what we call our individual needs register at a level of support. If you're coming from outside of ESF, then this will be new to you. But basically what we do is we look at our child holistically, and there are 6 levels of support in the ESF. So 5, 6 does not get supported at West Island School. They would be students who go to Jockey Club Sarah Rowe School, which is the ESF's special school. Within West Island, we support students at level 1 through to level 4. You will know already if your child has a level 3 or 4 identifier because they are part of the learning support class. Level 1 and 2 is much more fluid in many ways. And it might be that you're coming up from ESF already with a level of adjustment because we know that your child is dyslexic or they have ADHD or they're autistic or one of the many diagnoses and learning challenges that come through school. Or you may not, and it might be something that is at the back of your mind. You're thinking, okay, I know my child has struggled in the past. This might be something we need to think about and have a conversation with. And that's fine. We're open to those conversations. In fact, the more honest you can be about your child and what they need, the better our learning journey is going to be for your child. We're not going to be making judgments about a child if you tell us that they've had challenges with their reading or their writing or their spelling or their social communication challenges, or they need help making friends, or they've had trouble with attention and focus. This is fine. This is fine. This is all things that we deal with on a daily basis. This is not a concern. So these are the levels. If we give them a level 1 or 2, it means that they're supported within a mainstream class. We might offer some bespoke teaching, some bespoke intervention classes, etc. Learning support centre students are again in the mainstream for the majority of their lessons, but they may get some extra bespoke support. So what that might look like is a little bit like this. So in LOA, Strategies for School is one of our intervention programs. This is a program that runs all the way from year 7 through to year 11. It is for students really who have been identified as level of adjustment 2 or 3. They are students that it takes the place of a foreign language. So if you choose Chinese Mastery as your language course, then this is not an option. You cannot take this course. But if you choose Chinese or French or Spanish as your foreign language, you can choose to take this instead of the second one. So Strategies for School is taught by one of the learning support teachers. We look at reading, writing, spelling, organisation. We look at some math support. So we go back and backfill maybe gaps they've got in their learning. And for a lot of students, they like it because it gives a little bit of breathing space in the curriculum. A small class, it's usually no more than 8 students in a class. It gives them a high level of contact with the subject, with a teacher specialist. And we find that students keep choosing it year after year after year. They don't tend to get fed up of it. They keep wanting to come back and do it again because they find it valuable. If you choose it in year 7, then you are choosing it for 2 years, 7 and 8. That will change in year 9, and we can talk about that when you go through later on. But be aware that if you choose to only take one foreign language in year 7, then you are choosing Strategies for School in 7 and 8. Learning support are small class teaching. We also offer small class MYP English and small class MYP Individuals and Societies. They are following the mainstream curriculum. They do exactly the same tasks, but we do it in a slightly different way. We might change our process. We might go a little slower. We might read the whole book together, for example, in English, rather than set it as a home task. Again, the students really like it. The main difference between an LOA 2 and an LOA 3-4 is a student with an LOA 3-4 will have an IEP and a key worker, whereas a student at LOA 2-3 may not have a key worker. They may not need one, for example, but they will have an action plan. You will get an overview of the support they're receiving. And if they're a level 2, LOA 2, then there's a very strong chance that there will be an EA, an educational assistant, working alongside the teacher to help them navigate their way through each of the subjects in the mainstream. So this is a little bit of an overview of what the different year groups might look like. In year 7 and 8, they can choose one foreign language. They choose plus strategies for school. It teaches, as I said before, literacy, numeracy, study skills, social skills, organisation, social thinking, whatever really your child needs, that can be addressed through those sessions. And there are 3 one-hour sessions per 7-day cycle. In year 9, again, it continues into year 9. It's slightly smaller. It's only 2 sessions per cycle. They can do it instead of a language or instead of one of the options that they take in year 9. So we don't take away the language option completely. They can continue through with a foreign language. In 10 and 11, it's really popular. It takes the place of a 1 GCSE option. We do have a lot of focus on science and maths in year 10 and 11 because they are very content heavy subjects, and obviously they're core subjects. And then in 12 and 13, we don't have something called strategies for school, but we offer a lot of coursework support, supplementary courses, whatever really a student needs is what we can offer. It's very bespoke. It's very flexible across the whole of the school. This is the small groups I was talking about in terms of English and INS. Same outcomes, same processes, might be different, might be a slower pace. It might be slightly less inquiry-based and more direct instruction-based. These are classes normally of between 6 and 8 students. The majority of students will take their English and their INS within a large mainstream class, but there are some students who benefit from a smaller class. In most cases, we have already met with parents and had conversations if we think that this is something that your child might need. However, there are students added to our list every day. So if this is something you think that you've not been contacted about, and it's something that you think your child genuinely would benefit from, as in they've struggled in their primary school or they've had support in their primary school previously and that we're not aware of it, then please contact me as soon as possible because we are beginning to put class lists together. Exam access arrangements is something that goes throughout the whole of the school. So anybody who has a diagnosis of ASD, autism spectrum disorder, or ADHD will automatically be added to our IN register for exam protocols. Now, this means that any timed assessments, they can have 25% extra time. They can have use of a word processor. They may need a separate room, for example, or they can have supervised rest breaks. This really kicks in year 10 and 11, but we have to show a history of need. So even through 7, 8 and 9, the students who we identify as needing these criteria, these accommodations, will be offered this support in year 7 through to 9 as well. Okay. Other than that, other than those big diagnoses, we have plenty of students that also access these accommodations, but that is based on our internal testing because the exam boards set various quite rigorous criteria. So it's not just Mrs. Woods thinks they benefit, it's do they have reading speed, writing speeds, processing speeds that the exam boards would agree that the student needs extra time. And this, I think, will answer one of the questions. We can come back to this later because I know there's a question about assessments and how we work out support later in the question time. This is all things that we can we help students to organise themselves with. we suggest, for example, that you buy a range of plastic wallets, zipped plastic wallets in a range of different colours. And then one of the good things is to help them use the same colour as the plastic wallet to colour in their timetable, because that then shows that maths is green and English is yellow and individuals and societies is blue, and they can keep it all together in one place. Some sort of whiteboard or wall calendar in their bedroom is really handy wherever they're going to do their work, so that they can put their deadlines on. Go with them in the first weeks in particular. Get them to empty their bag each evening and repack it for the next day. They'll be dead keen on this at first, but it'll dies off in about week 3. And then by the end of week 4, they've got their entire week's things in their bags, and they're carrying everything around with them. Encourage them to use Homework Club. They don't need it straight away, but they may need it by October half term in year 7. Homework, all assignments, email. Email is the place that you're going to see most information through. It's how you're going to communicate with teachers. It's how they can communicate with teachers. And then lots of revision techniques we'll go through as well. I'm not going to go through all that now. So how do we know that they've transitioned well into high school? These are some of the questions you can ask them. Do they know their way around school now? Do they feel they can keep up with their homework? Do they know where to go and get help if they need it? Do they feel organised? Do they feel in control of what's happening to them? Are they involved in different activities? Have they signed up for a range of CAS activities? And have they got some new friends? Have they made some friends that come from outside of the initial friendship group that they started with? These things take a little bit of time for most students. Most students will have, well, some students may have a bit of a wobble in the early days. That's okay. It's to be expected. If that happens, contact the tutor, contact me, contact Mrs. Neville, and we can help them navigate through any changes that they're struggling with. But 99.99% of the time, students transition into high school really well. They're very happy, they're excited, and they are well organised and know what they're doing. For those tiny blips, that's when you need to reach out and get some help and support. So if you've listened to this and you're thinking, okay, my child has struggled in primary school, Mrs. Woods or Mrs. Neville has not reached out to me, I need to check if my child is known to them and flag up some concerns, then please do so via the email, and we will contact you to make sure that everybody's happy about the offering that we're going to offer at school. I know we've got some questions to come, so I'm going to stop sharing there, and I'm going to invite Mr. Hewson to come back, and then we can answer any specific questions that we may have.
Great. Thanks, Maria. That was really, really comprehensive. I hope parents that you feel you've got a good grasp of the department. I know, Maria, you spoke about the fact that there is quite a lot to get used to at West Island School, a bigger building to navigate around. And hopefully your children felt that the 2-day visits that they had a week or so ago really benefited them, and they were able to figure out where things were approximately and reassured them in the run-up to starting in August. And they will return again next Friday. And I'll just remind parents at the end of this session the arrangements for next Friday at the end of this webinar. So, Maria, a couple of questions that parents did ask in advance of the webinar. And for parents that feel they've got a relevant IN-based question, there is an opportunity in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen to submit any questions. We'll attempt to answer them live. But Maria, a pre-submitted question was, are there any special learning assessments and counselling arrangements specifically for students with ADHD? But I appreciate that could be opened up more generally as well.
Yeah, we offer, I mean, the first thing to reassure us is there's a lot of students with ADHD in school. It's not an unusual thing to be diagnosed with. We have a lot of students that are medicated for their ADHD, and we have some students that are not medicated for their ADHD, and that has to be an entirely personal decision that the family make. Quite a number of students with ADHD will join our S4S class. Obviously, ADHD has executive functioning challenges and organisation challenges, and we can help with that in the S4S programme. If you are thinking that your child may have ADHD and are not sure, we also have what we call an internal referral process. Now, I wouldn't be looking at this within the first 6 to 8 weeks. We really need students to get used to high school before we start worrying about anything like this. But if we're getting towards December and you're beginning to realise that your child is a bit all over the place, for example, they're not meeting their deadlines, they're forgetting their homework, you're getting complaints that they're not focusing properly in class, then we have something called an internal referral process, and we may contact you and we can do some basic assessments then and bring you in for a conversation about how we support your child through that. There is counselling in school, obviously, but ADHD in particular would usually be picked up by the IN team. We can have daily check-ins if that's required. We're very, very flexible. So if this is something that is a concern to you, then reach out, pass the name to us, let us know who it is who you are and what it is you would like us to do, and then we can see if we can meet with you and reassure you. But ADHD is pretty common, pretty common.
Great. Thank you, Maria. I do have a question which I just need to have a quick read of.
Okay.
You answer the next question. So Maria, the next question is, how do you evaluate if a student has individual learning needs from the start of year 7?
Okay, so if they haven't been flagged to us already by the primary school, which many have, then normally we give a really good long settling in period, first of all, because the way that we work at high school is quite different to primary school. And so it can be a little bit overwhelming. And sometimes parents and even teachers actually can sometimes think there's a learning challenge when really it isn't. It's just a settling in challenge. And once they know the routines and how to go about things, things settle down. However, if over a period of time there becomes more concerns and your child themselves is beginning to feel as though they're struggling, that's when the internal referral system comes in. And that's where Miss Woozy would do a round robin, first of all, and gather some information from the class teachers. We'd look at that information and then we'd contact parents to say, give us your thoughts, what were they like at primary school, and gather all the background information. And then we can do some assessments. We can do dyslexia assessments, we can do ADHD checklists, we can look at processing, reading, spelling, writing, a whole range of things, which will give us a nice clear picture of where your child is and if they have any learning challenges, how we need to support and work with them.
Great. Thanks, Maria.
Okay. Any more?
That has come in from a parent who is
Sorry, Guy, you've just broken up a bit.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Great. Okay. Sorry about that. So a question from a parent who is not in the ESF system,
okay,
and therefore may not be with the levels of adjustment. The parent, I think I understood this correctly, is how do you decide which group? So level of adjustment 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. How do you decide which level of adjustment group they are allocated? And the second part is, if they are not in strategies for school, the S4S program, can they still access Daily Homework Club?
Yes, they can, is the first answer to that. Homework Club is open to all students in all years. We run a lower school and an upper school, and that is nothing to do with whether your child is on the level of adjustment or not. So any child can come to Homework Club and get support. Level of adjustments are based on the amount of support a student needs. So if they are in mainstream classes, they just need a little bit of extra time maybe, or they get a laptop because their handwriting is pretty ropey, then they might be a level of adjustment 1. Level of adjustment 2 is usually students who access our strategies for school. These are students who are getting some direct support within our individual needs. 3 and 4 are designated by ESF Centre. So if you are outside of the ESF system and you're joining us in year 7, your child would not be a 3-4. Very unlikely. If it becomes apparent over time that they need a significant amount of support, then we have something called an ARP panel, which is Admissions and Review Panel. And that is where we gather information, but it also involves things like an educational psychology report, speech and language reports maybe, and that is centrally allocated. So it's very unlikely that if you're coming from outside of the ESF now in year 7, and you've come through our admissions process, that you would be a 3-4, and we would have already had that conversation with you. So if you're coming in set from outside, you're likely, if at all, to have a level 1 or 2. But the majority of students in school don't have a level at all, remember. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Maria. So at the moment, that is all the IN questions that have questions. And some parents, the presentations about this. Can you hear me, Maria?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, VJ was saying there might be an issue, but if you can hear me, that's good. So the advice that we would give to parents, and we've given to parents through the presentations, is please don't buy a smartphone for your child and give it to them on the very first day of school.
Nope.
Because it is a device that they can access the entire internet. There is no restrictions on it. And if your child is not used to that level of technology, then potentially there is quite a risk there in terms of what they can access. My advice is either to do something now, so you've got time as parents to educate your child and work with your child to help them prepare, or leave it until well after they've joined and they've started to settle in. It's not for me to tell you what to do as parents. You will know your child the very best, and each parent will have their own approach, whether it is buying a brick phone initially, an old Nokia phone, or whether it is giving a phone but having lots of restrictions in terms of apps that they can access. You know, that is a conversation to have an agreement within your own family units. But no, you do not need, your child does not need a smartphone as part of their
No, absolutely not.
at West Island School, who have asked that question. Another question that came in was regarding finding teachers. So each faculty has a faculty office, and teachers can be located in those faculty office. But the advice I would give to children, and again, we'll talk about this when they arrive at their base system. So if you want to reach out to a teacher, email them, mention that your child wants to meet with them, and they will contact your child back and make an appropriate time, because teachers are teaching throughout the day, often meeting other students at lunchtime and break times, and it's just easier for them to manage their schedules by arranging something through the email system. 2 more questions about the school bus registration. That is of how to contact them. Can you still hear me, Maria?
You're getting quite choppy.
Maria,
You're breathing up and down.
it's stable now. Stable now?
Momentarily.
Oh no, you can't
Would
hear
you like
me.
me to take over?
Oh dear. Let me try and move. If you can do about, is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And by the Wi-Fi point. So, in terms of the Kwun Chong, that you will be informed by the bus company how to go about ordering your child's bus card. As I said, it's not operated by the PTA. It's actually operated by the Kwun Chong Bus Company, and they manage the whole ticket system. And then the final question, which I think is actually being answered, or Miss Woozy, do you want to come on screen and answer that question? If not, I can answer it.
Yeah, give me a sec. Is that the WhatsApp question?
Yes.
I think it isn't something that as a school we organise, but I think informally parents usually do create a little WhatsApp group within the class, sometimes with even the year. I think there's lots of opportunity that we provide as a school where you can meet the other parents. Next Friday being a really good example, where we're inviting the students to be in during the day. And then we're inviting parents in the evening, and that'll be an opportunity to maybe meet some of the other parents. So I think it's a very informal arrangement that we don't do, but yes, that is what parents normally do.
Yeah, and also for parents that are not ESF parents, in terms of communication from West Island, there is an ESF app, and all the information to support your child in West Island School, whether it is timetables, whether it is what uniform to wear, whether there is a non-uniform day, all of that information will come.
Okay, you've frozen again.
There you go.
I've just seen there's a question here about you received a letter in February stating that assessment, and you haven't heard anything since. Thank you for that. We will be in touch tomorrow to follow up with you. Thank you for raising that. We've obviously missed you off our list. We can follow up. If there is anybody else who thinks that we need to follow up with you, then please drop us an email as soon as you can, really, and we will be in touch in the next few days.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Woods. And just finally from me, sorry, a question did come in about the school bus again. We will write to you, and we're about to write to you over the next few days or early next week with your child's dynasty placing, but we will tell you at the right moment when to organise your child's bus ticket. Okay, so please don't worry that you're going to miss out. You will not miss out on bus tickets, because I know it's an important part of preparing to join West Island when the right moment is to organise your child's bus tickets. Okay, so Miss Neville, do you want to come very quickly online so we can thank everybody who has participated in the evening webinar? So thank you very much, Miss Woods, as head of IN. And we look forward to continuing to work with the children in the IN department, ably supported by Miss Neville. For parents, obviously now we're putting live pictures to people's names, so you are aware of who we all are. And Miss Woozy, you are going to be leading the children through their transition programme, ongoing from Friday next week. And for parents, we're really looking forward to seeing both you in the evening and your children during the school day, working in their dynasty groups and getting to know each other. And if there are any further questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. But we haven't got any more questions coming through. Miss Woods, Miss Neville, Miss Woozy, anything finally to add before we close the evening?
No, just be rest assured that whatever you need, we can accommodate usually. We work together. It's a collaborative effort.
Yeah, very
We
much
work
so.
as a team to move your children through and successfully navigate their way through West Island School. And there will be letters coming in the next couple of days for you to make the choices, if you wish, for strategies for school, small group English, small group INS. So if you think you want to receive one of those letters, you need to email us so that we can send it to you.
Great, thank you. Miss Woozy, any last minute instructions or information?
No, other than I'm really looking forward to getting to know everybody, to meeting, well, we've already met the children, to getting to know the children a bit better, and to meet parents. And just to reiterate what Miss Wood said, I think one of the things we do very, very well at West Island is we look after your children. We know that they're very young. Some of them are still only 10. We appreciate how daunting that is, and we will just take the very best care of them, just to reassure you of that.
Great, thank you. Miss Neville, any last words? from
Just
yourself?
that I'm really looking forward to welcoming all your children next academic year.
Great. Okay, so thank you very much, parents. It's lovely to be online again. This is the final webinar before your children join us as West Island students. So again, looking forward to seeing you next Friday. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and thank you, panelists and VJ, for helping this evening run as smoothly. Have a lovely evening. Thank you very much, and good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.